Welcome to a special breaking news edition of Daily Airline News, focusing on the tragedy of 171, the Air India 787 crash. I'm Geoffrey Thomas, and I'm delighted to say, joined by my co-host Richard Godfrey, and it now must be good afternoon, Richard.
It is indeed. Good afternoon from me, and probably now good evening to you.
It is indeed, yes. So, in episode 157, posted just a little while ago, we said that new information had been leaked on the Air India 171 crash investigation. We have now checked and validated the new information and want to bring viewers up to date with what we have gleaned. First, one source in Washington, D.C. has indicated there was no engine flameout. The previously suggested possibility of a single or a dual engine flameout based on CCTV video analysis has been shown to be incorrect. While dust and/or smoke may have been observed, as we stated yesterday, there was no catastrophic engine damage and both engines were successfully relit. Secondly, Jennifer Homendy, the chairman of the US Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, stated that her goal in working with Indian authorities was to quickly determine whether the crash presented any immediate safety concerns to the travelling public. Thirdly, an NTSB spokesman confirmed that the chair has been fully briefed on all aspects of the Air India investigation, including the cockpit voice recorder, CVR, and the flight data recorder, FDR information. Fourthly, according to individuals familiar with the matter, Jennifer Homendy has expressed a desire to personally listen to the cockpit voice recording. This has been widely reported in the Wall Street Journal, other reputable media, and confirmed by other sources close to the investigation. Richard, what do we now know about the flight crew actions from this new information?
The first thing is it was the captain who moved the fuel switches from run to cutoff, just as the aircraft was transitioning from ground to air mode and lifting off from the runway after rotation. The second thing is the first officer asked why and then panicked. The captain, however, remained calm.
Was this an accidental or deliberate act?
That is what we still do not know, whether it was an accident or a deliberate act. But we do now know this was definitely not a single or dual flameout. It was a fuel starvation of both engines due to the fuel switches being moved to cutoff. It's also been confirmed that the criminal authorities are reviewing the matter with particular attention to the actions of the captain. Additionally, the accident investigation is currently focusing on medical and psychological evaluations, with subject matter experts in those fields playing a key role.
So, what does the operator, Air India, say from your investigations, Richard?
The Air India CEO is widely quoted as saying that this investigation is, and I quote, far from over. An internal memo was sent to all Air India staff saying that all aspects of the Air India operations were being investigated, including pilot service records, training, medical, and psychological information.
So that's the Air India having their say. What about the DGCA and the AAIB of India? What are they saying?
Well, the Wall Street Journal reports in their article that they approached the DGCEA and the AAIB India for comment on their latest article and were told the Wall Street Journal report is one-sided.
Wow.
Whatever that means.
Mm.
The preliminary report did not suggest anything out of the ordinary with the aircraft or the engines. And they quoted again what the report says: at this stage of investigation, there are no recommended actions on B787-8 or on the GE NX-1B engine operators or manufacturers. And again, it's pointed out no FAA, Boeing, or GE safety bulletins or airworthiness directives have been published relating to the Air India 171 crash investigation.
So now, where does this leave the investigation, Richard?
Well, this now places the Indian authorities in the position of needing to explain their report. The release of the detailed cockpit voice recording transcript or audio and the detailed timeline of events from the FDR are absolutely key for the further investigation. And the key issues now is whether there was an intentional or unintentional act by the captain. And we pointed out the successful engine relights, but were they executed by the first officer in the midst of cockpit panic, or were they executed by both pilots calmly in accordance with standard procedures, having recognized an unintentional mistake?
Yes, I mean, first of all, this revelations, particularly relating to our video analysis of the takeoff, this absolutely screams that we must have a far more detailed timeline. I mean, going down to the nearest second is just not good enough. It's got to be far more accurate than that in this sort
Yeah,
of a scenario.
absolutely correct. The data available to the investigation is accurate to the nearest tenth of a second for sure, and maybe
Yeah.
even finer than that. But they should release to the nearest tenth of a second the CVR and the FDR data. That is absolutely synchronized when it's coming from the aircraft systems, and sometimes it's synchronized to the nearest millisecond. And that will give us a much better transparency of the timeline of exactly what happened and when. And when they talk about N1 and N2 and the thrust going down and then picking up again, we need precise timing of all of those engine events so we can see what happened.
And it also is uh, really a disgrace that it requires the chair of the NTSB to really talk about and force out this information regarding the crew actions, and that should have come in a more direct way, in a more concise way from the AAIB.
Yeah, it's a very clear message from Jennifer Homendy, and now you can really get a picture of why the NTSB were threatening to walk out and leave the investigation and send their investigators home.
And what she has done, which is fantastic, what the chair has done is to crystallize the direction of the analysis of this terrible tragedy, because since that report's come out, there's literally been thousands and thousands of videos that have looked at this crash from all sorts of different angles, trying to make sense of that report.
Indeed. And there's obviously a lot of pressure on the Indian authorities and the investigation team in India from the AAIB and then from the DGCA to come clean and be transparent. And I don't know how many questions have been raised, but it's hundreds of questions have been raised on this report.
And talking of raising questions, the Wall Street Journal's the the Wall Street Journal's question to the DGCA and the AAIB, their response, the Wall Street Journal report is one-sided. I mean, if you're quoting the chair of the NTSB, it can't be one-sided. It's accurate.
Yeah, and fobbing it off as just being one-sided doesn't help. If you seriously believe that the information's one-sided, then the obligation is on you to provide evidence of that
Mm,
one-sidedness, and
mm.
there's no evidence provided at all. Uh, on the To the contrary, there is uh, there isn't obfuscation, but there is a lack of detail to the point where uh, the public are hindered in being able to come to any conclusion for themselves.
And really, when you think about it, the Wall Street Journal report is one-sided. That's the quote. That just really that's like petrol onto a fire, and that fire is all about a cover-up.
Yeah. And one of our first episodes was
Yeah,
titled Cover Up
it
question
was.
mark. Well,
Yeah.
now you can take the question mark away, I think, and put exclamation mark instead.
Well, yeah, it's and it also signals a major rift between the NTSB and the India's AAIB about transparency, clarity, and the truth.
Yeah, and that's why they got to the point of threatening to walk out
Yeah,
because
yeah,
they were very unhappy with how things were going.
yeah. So, viewers, we said that we're going to take your questions tomorrow, Friday, and now I guess you're going to have lots of questions about this particular episode. There's a lot of meat in this. We're slowly but surely getting to the truth, although we really only have now confirmation that there was a bit of chaos in the cockpit, deliberate or not. We don't know yet. And hopefully the AAIB is going to quickly come out with a further preliminary report to try and clarify some of these things raised by the NTSB and the Wall Street Journal. Would you think not, Richard?
Absolutely. The ball is firmly in the court of the Indian authorities, and they need to act responsibly and quickly because, as Jennifer Hormody points out, the safety of the flying public is at stake here.
And also, I mean, the AAIB ought to be aware that this sort of report, this sort of deliberation, this sort of cover up, if you like, does nothing at all for Indian aviation. There's nothing at all for Air India's bid to become a great airline again. All it's going to do is people will think Air India, no, I'm not flying with them. They're doing an enormous amount of damage to their big, well, what was once their biggest airline, and it's not anymore. Indigo is the biggest, but they're doing an enormous amount of damage to Air India.
Indeed, they are. And we've had several viewers commenting that they would not fly on Air India or they were actually booked on Air India but are going to
Yeah,
change to another operator.
yeah.
So, the message is out there.
Well, it may be bad news, but they've got to get it out and they've got to deal with it and put in place actions that try to prevent it happening again.
But you can't deal with something until you've faced up to the
Yes,
situation.
that's right.
And you first of all have to face up, no matter how bad the news is, to the situation. And then you can work out the steps you need to take in order to resolve the issue and make sure it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Richard. So, viewers, thanks for subscribing. Thanks for liking us. Thanks for your comments. Thanks for your support. Really love your support and really appreciate it. Richard, thanks for your research into this new information that we've had late this afternoon. And viewers, please tune in tomorrow and send us your questions on this new evidence. Thank you, Richard.
You're welcome.